for his 5th presentation, PKN presentation. So we've had 14 events in Keller. This is Keller's 5th presentation. He is our resident philosopher, and tonight he's here to talk about introversion. So please welcome Keller.
All my life I've had to contend with people calling me antisocial. I have heard that a lot. You're really antisocial, you know that. And every time I hear this, I know two things. One, I know they're wrong. I'm not antisocial. But two, I know they're seeing something real. And it wasn't until my early adulthood that I was able to identify and name that something. I'm not antisocial. I'm an introvert. And some of you may be saying, well, what's the difference? And if you are, that's likely because you're an extrovert. And that's okay. About 2/3 of us are extroverts. But it's important to understand that they're not the same, antisocial and introvert. The trouble is that if you're an extrovert, that it is unfathomable to you why anyone would spend long periods of time alone by choice. Because for extroverts, highly stimulating environments are really pleasurable, they're really energizing and really engaging. And if a person would choose not to be in an environment like that, the only thing that we can conclude is that they're doing it because they don't like people. They're antisocial. But let me say on behalf of introverts that that's not why we choose to be alone. For introverts, unlike extroverts, we don't find highly social contexts energizing. On the contrary, we find them taxing. Not bad, but draining. They don't give energy to us, they take it from us. And when we're out of energy and need to recharge, we do that by being alone. This is why introverts choose to be alone. We're out of energy and we need to charge our batteries, you know? Now, as a consequence of this, introverts tend to be the sorts of people that are really careful with how they budget their energy. If you've only got so much of it, and if all of your interactions require you to spend some of it, you're going to be very careful how you make those choices. This is why introverts tend to be the sorts of people that just don't have a lot of time for small talk. Because for us, it feels like pointless triviality. It's a waste of time and energy. Let's not talk about the weather and the game. Let's talk about something real. Let's talk about something significant if I'm going to be spending my time on this conversation. We're also the sorts of people that tend to have just a few very close friends, rather than a large network of acquaintances. It takes a ton of energy to maintain a network like that. And for us, we'd just rather spend it on a few people with whom we have really deep, really long-lasting, really meaningful relationships. That's just how we're constituted as people. This energy conservation thing is also why introverts tend to be the sorts of people that prefer more low-key kinds of environments, you know. It takes a ton of energy to be in a really high stimulation environment. And so if I have a choice, let's just go have a cup of coffee, you know. We'll go into a quiet place and we'll have a nice chat. Now, all of this may have led to the conclusion that it's kind of a problem being an introvert, it's a barrier to achievement, but that's just not the case. All of these people are or were introverts, and these people changed the world. I mean, they were not just at the tops of their field, they changed how we live and how we conduct our lives. All of them introverts. Because introversion is not a problem. The problem arises when we normalize extroversion and expect everybody to be a good little extrovert. Susan Cain calls this the extrovert ideal, whereby we normalize extroversion, right, and marginalize introversion such that if you evince introverted characteristics, it's not just that you're different, it's that something's wrong with you. I mean, if I just want to go home after a long week of work and curl up with a good book rather than going to the bar with my coworkers, it's not just that I'm different from them, it's that something's wrong with me. You're really antisocial, you know that. And this is something that I've had to deal with because we don't understand difference like that real well. We tend to flatten things out and expect everybody to be good extroverts. Now, we are living in the world of the extrovert ideal. That's our culture. It's not necessarily bad, but you know, I'd like to see that change. We heroize the affable people. We heroize the ones with the ready smile and handshake, right? That's okay to be like that, but not everybody is, right? And you can see this dominance of the extrovert ideal in a number of different ways. I'll give you two. One is the rise of collaborative learning. This is where we group students together in learning pods or clusters, and then they learn from each other. Answer each other's questions, help each other on homework, do group projects, and that is a great idea for extroverts. An introverted student is not going to perform up to his highest potential in this kind of environment because she's having to split her energy between sociability and doing the schoolwork. And when you underperform in your early educational years, that follows you throughout your educational career. I can attest to that. Another way that the extrovert ideal manifests itself is through the rise of an open office. Some of you may work in places like this. Let's get everybody out of the offices. cubicles, get them into open space where we can pile on top of each other and creative, collaborative, synergistic energy can happen. And again, this is a great idea for extroverts. An introverted worker is not going to flourish in this kind of environment because, again, the demand is to split our energy between constant sociability and doing our jobs, right? Introverts flourish in places where we can just concentrate free from distractions. This is why an introvert in one of these places will stick in your earbuds and will leave them there until they go home. But that'll be noticed on performance reviews and it will follow you through your career and it can really impact your chances for career advancement. Now, what I'd like to see is some of that beginning to change. Those of us who are in a position to influence the institutions of our culture are really lucky because we can begin with the realization that we get our best out of our people when we play to their strengths, right? When we enable people to be, when we give them room to be who they are to their fullest level of potential, then that's when we really have vital institutions. The evil of the extrovert ideal is that it heavily implies that introverts don't really have anything meaningful to contribute, right? That they're valuable insofar as they can convert themselves into good extroverts. But that kind of conversion is just not possible, right? It will fail as a project, but it will also make us fail at our work because we're splitting our energy again. When organizations flatten out into extrovert-only organizations, they're losing out on the contributions introverts can make because we have strengths that extroverts don't have. And when we can enfold those into our institutions, then we'll have institutions that are much more dynamic and powerful. My hope is that we'll begin to realize that introverts have something vital to contribute, not in spite of who they are, but because of who they are. My hope is that we'll begin to make room for introverts to contribute what they can contribute to our societies, right? According to their strengths, not just for the good of our institutions, but also for the good of our societies.